Our next speaker who will give her reactions to the book is Marites Vitu, editor of Newsbreak and the founder of Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First, I'd like to give an on-the-ground feel of our first 4 months under the new president and see how and where this book of Professor Johnston can fit in. Ever since Gloria Arroyo left office, we've seen changes, most remarkably in style. The part about President Noynoy's inaugural speech that we liked so much was his no wang wang policy, referring to blaring sirens used by VIPs to skirt Manila's notorious traffic. Suddenly, our streets were free of wang-wangs as citizens with their cell phone cameras took photos of cars violating the sacred policy, put them on cyberspace, and gave notice to TV and print journalists. One of the vice president's escorts happened to use his wang-wang a day or so after his boss assumed office, and this was in the front page of a newspaper and on primetime TV news. Even the U.S. ambassador immediately followed and announced he was having his wang-wang dismantled. Before Noynoy moved to Malacanang Palace, he lived in his house in the suburb of Quezon City, which meant he had to go through Manila's streets daily to report to work. It took many by surprise that the presidential convoy stopped at red lights, and his security guards had to stand outside the president's car and be on full alert. Once, the president even rolled down his glass window. The security people were in a daily nightmare. The no wang wang policy set and the example set by Noynoy of observing traffic lights, of not demanding any special treatment, has sent ripples. We hear anecdotes of traffic cops accosting drivers who violate one-way signs saying, "Even the president doesn't do this." The international airport is a good laboratory. Airport personnel say traffic is no longer held up by VIPs with their backup cars because they have done away with their wang-wangs. Chris Aquino, whom we all know, and his other sisters queue to check in and for security check. Dropping old practice, former President Arroyo and her husband had to queue at the airport and undergo body check just like everyone else. Of course, reporters couldn't avoid writing about this, complete with photographs of a glum former president subjecting herself to a body check. As for Noynoy's lifestyle, it's refreshingly simple. He rarely dines in 5-star hotels and fine dining restaurants. On the day Congress proclaimed him winner of the presidential race, he and his staff celebrated in a noisy and inexpensive Chinese restaurant beside a supermarket. One day, he was late for a morning appointment because he said he couldn't sleep the night before. Why? His part of the city experienced a blackout and he didn't have a generator. When he visited the U.S., he deliberately left his cell phone in the Philippines because he said, among other reasons, he didn't want additional expenses on his roaming account. I don't know if Secretary Bush will confirm this. The U.S. trip was his first overseas visit in 11 years. At the time he became president, he had an expired passport. I have a suspicion that the president at the time did not have a roaming account. And of course, the most publicized story about his visit, which even the Vietnamese press carried, was his hot dog meal in New York. Lunch for him and those who accompanied him cost a total of $54. The subtext is, this is a great contrast to former President Arroyo's dinner at a Tony restaurant in New York, which cost taxpayers $20,000, or then at the time, 1 million pesos. Nothing about Noynoy eating hot dog or hamburger appears scripted. That's really his bad, unhealthy diet. When President Aquino went to Hanoi for the recent ASEAN summit, he reportedly took a Philippine Air Force Fokker plane, which had seen its glory days, from Ho Chi Minh to the Vietnamese capital and back. From Ho Chi Minh, he took a Philippine Airlines commercial flight home. His special request, a can of regular Coke. Remember that Lucio Tan's airline only serves colas his companies produce. You won't see any competing brands there. I hope Noynoy does more than request regular Coke. This is largely about style, but it's also about a culture that's slowly seeping in. It's about not flaunting power. It's about what it means to be in public office. In a country steeped in class consciousness, this counts for much. After 9 years of corruption scandals, this too counts for much. Now, this is where Professor Michael Johnston's book nicely fits in. It's very timely, as Mr. Washington Sisip said, for now is the opportunity to undertake reforms. After the vast change in style, what we now need is substance to boost the power of example. Professor Johnston's book comes in handy. It can help the Aquino government spell out an anti-corruption program, even if Pinoy only picks a few key strategies, as long as they are workable and effective. The strategies proposed by Professor Johnston covered the whole range from long-term to short-term. But within 6 years, President Pinoy can only do so much. As Professor Johnston says, the new government needs to show successes. With the legal assault on Pinoy that Pinoy is getting from Arroyo allies through the Supreme Court, we need to know his options outside the Truth Commission, which the court may eventually strike down. We need to know his option in pursuing graft cases against Arroyo and her cronies, which the Ombudsman, with little sense of the public good, won't pursue anyway. Remember, the Supreme Court foiled her likely impeachment. The executive order on midnight appointments may also be struck down, leaving Pinoy stuck with the midnights. Apart from these, what are the institutional steps that each department should take outside of posting budgets, expenses, and contracts on their websites? And so far, only 3 departments have done this. Running after tax evaders has also a powerful demonstration effect. But within the BIR and Customs Bureau, how do the leaders set reforms within the institution so that they are sustained? A key point raised by Professor Johnston. The $400 million grant from the Millennium Challenge account is supposed to help the government boost institutional measures to fight corruption. We and the public may be aware of these disparate measures to stem corruption, but getting the full picture from Pinoy with targeted accomplishments for each department will definitely strengthen his power of example and boost his style. Here, Professor Johnston gives a lot of details. The key is institutionalizing reforms so that whoever takes over the departments is able to continue these steps and sustain them. At the same time, Professor Johnston stresses that Pinoy's government has to show immediate results so that he gets public support for the long term. This book provides a roadmap that includes how successes can be achieved and demonstrated. It's a very rich strategy, the big picture that can help the new government navigate through this difficult terrain. As for the media, we do play a vital role. As Jon Stewart said, and I take this seriously, the media is like our immune system. End of quote. We boost our country's democracy by reporting with rigor on governance issues, by taking our role as watchdog to heart. We need to hold our magnifying glass up to anti-corruption issues, especially what Pinoy promised to deliver. Bring them into focus and illuminate these. We need to do more reporting on anti-corruption programs and strategies, provide coherence, and make sense of these scattered details. Reporting will be more enlightened if journalists have an anchor, and this is the government's anti-corruption blueprint, complete with key strategies and targeted results. We can then compare this blueprint with what's happening on the ground. So this book, Professor Johnston, will keep our plates full and will definitely add substance to President Noynoy's power of example. Thank you and good evening.